Hi, thanks so much for joining us today. We're at VCU, and we're going to be talking about teamwork and collaboration in Project Search. My name's Susie Rutkowski, and I'm the co-director of Project Search. Thank you again. 2 years ago, we got a grant from the Mitsubishi Electric America Foundation to study our highest performing sites in Project Search, which means we were looking at the sites who got 90 and 100% employment outcomes to try to figure out what are those teams doing, what are they doing well in order for their young people to get competitive jobs in the community. Many of the slides and information in this presentation are the result of that research study, and I want to publicly recognize the Mitsubishi Electric America Foundation. Thanks again. Project Search is based on teamwork. Project Search is based on collaboration of agencies and partners coming together to put together a training program for young people with disabilities in order to prepare them for the world of work. There are, in every Project Search site, an educational partner, a supported employment partner, families, businesses, DD agencies, and whatever else it takes. In many ways, you would think this would be the easiest thing to do in Project Search, but it's probably one of the most difficult, is to bring these partners together in a very open and honest way. Every site that we talked to, and we researched almost 40 different Project Search programs, said that teamwork, collaboration, and communication were the reasons that they were so successful. So let's take a look at some of the things that these teams said. So Bon Secours, one of our programs here in Virginia, said, everyone on the team is committed to the success of the interns. There is not one person on the team who will not pitch in to help, no matter what the need or situation. That's from Bon Secours at St. Mary's. So these high-achieving teams, we keep referring them to as our HAS sites, noted that teamwork, collaboration, and communication are the keys to their success. When we think about collaboration, there's actually a lot of research out there. And how we often collaborate is something called the cooperative model. If you look at this diagram, and if you propose that these are two different organizations, so let's say that we want to talk about transportation in our communities because we know that that's often a barrier to people with disabilities getting jobs. And what if two supported employment agencies get together and talk about how we're going to solve the problem of transportation? You might have each organization coming together and discussing it, but then what typically happens is we go back to our own organizations and we use our own knowledge and our skill set and our abilities, and we attempt to solve the problem alone, independently, in the way that makes the most sense for us. So that we don't end up really working together. We might come together to admire the problem or to discuss things, but we try to solve it on our own. We use different paths toward the same goal. And we often wonder why we don't come to some common solutions. Project Search looks at things differently. What we ask of each organization in Project Search is something called transformational collaboration, where each partner actually gives resources and oftentimes staff to come together to form a brand new piece, a brand new partnership that we call Project Search. So in Project Search, again, the education partner is giving an instructor. The supported employment partner is giving a job coach. The business is giving us a business liaison and internships. And then there are other entities as well. Might be a university, might be the families, might be another DD agency, but they're all contributing staff, time, and resources in this new organization. And the richer that new organization is, the more transformed it is, and what we have seen is the better the outcomes. So what else did we learn from these high-achieving sites? That they have strong steering committees, and steering committees are the leadership from each of those partner agencies that we just saw. They have collaborative on-site teams. The on-site team is the team that is there at the business day in and day out, working with the interns. The interns support each other, and I could tell you many stories about how that happens, but it's important that the interns know what the goal of Project Search is and help each other achieve that goal. So we have a program in St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Nebraska, and they say that the students encourage each other. They help each other when something seems too hard. Additional support teams can be the managers and the co-workers from all the different internships, the business advisory committee that are formed from various businesses across the community with the sole goal of opening up new opportunities, work opportunities for students. The families, we have a family involvement curriculum where we want the families to come together to help each other reach that goal of employment. And then whoever other teams and groups are in your community that could help you reach the goal of employment. So again, those Project Search teams are important to end up forming the kind of partnerships that you need so that students get skills, that they build the kind of resume that they need to get a job. Every Project Search team starts with a planning committee, and their sole goal is to put that Project Search team into place. So every Project Search team starts with people kind of coming together around the table and how are they going to put this Project Search team in place. Once the Project Search program starts, that planning committee morphs into your steering committee, which is kind of like continuous improvement. How do we make the program better? How do we reach our goal of employment? And they look at other challenges that the program might be having. Maybe they need more internships. Maybe they want to put together a business advisory committee. So typically you have a planning committee that morphs into a steering committee. Then you have your on-site team, which is usually your teacher, your job coaches, your business liaison that are at the Project Search program at the host business site day in and day out working with the interns. And then a business advisory council committee, etc. The secret of those structures is how open they are, how honest they are, how willing they are to bring challenges to the table, and what resources they can bring to the table to solve those challenges. If nobody knows that we're having an issue about recruitment, if the only partner that knows is the school, then we can't bring our resources together to solve those challenges. So it's important that those teams are open, honest, and transparent with each other so that they can use their joint resources to move forward, solve problems, and always get better. So again, when we researched these 40+ teams, we did SurveyMonkeys, and these graphs that you're going to see are the result of the information that we got from the various HAS teams, or high achieving teams. I'm not going to read it word for word, but we're going to look at just a couple of the bars that come up the highest. So this talks about the steering committee. And again, the steering committee, we want those steering committees to stay in place once the Project Search teams are up and running so that they can continually work towards improvement. So this says, which of the following partners participate in those steering committee meetings? That highest red bar is Voc Rehab. Voc Rehab is a funder and a participant of Project Search, so it's important that they're involved in the steering committees. The host business is that first orange bar. The school district is that kind of royal blue bar. And then that smaller blue bar is the community rehab providers. So those are typically the groups that make up the strongest members or the most common members of your steering committee, but it might be other educational partners, DD agencies, independent living centers, parent training centers, and university programs are some of the other common members that we see in Project Search steering committees. How often do they meet? The most common answer was monthly. That seems like a lot, doesn't it? It seems like a lot of time for your steering committee to be together. But again, these are our most, these are the teams that are getting the best employment outcomes. So we need to pay attention to what they're doing. And then some of them said quarterly, and then a few of them said every 6 weeks. So our best teams are meeting monthly. The on-site support team is kind of where the rubber meets the road. Those are the people that are on-site every day. That instructor, the job coaches, the host business liaison. So if they're not a strong team, if they're not honest with each other, if they're not working together, then we're going to have issues and we're going to have challenges. And the stronger they are, the better results that we're going to get for our young people. So how do you build a strong on-site team? Those high-achieving teams support the staff that are doing that day-to-day work. The job coaches and the teachers are the ones that are there every single day. Many times our HAS team said that a special ed supervisor, leadership from the different organizations, especially the host business, the director from the supported employment teams, a voc rehab supervisor, comes often to the site, the project search site where the work is taking place, to problem solve, to encourage, to create new strategies, to teach the on-site team how to work best with the students, and not only the students, but how to work best with the host business. So again, at Bon Secours, they say the team meets every day to plan the day's activities and weekly to talk more in depth about future needs. I know our program at Cincinnati Children's, the job coach and the teachers talk all the time during the day, and lunch is a sacred time for them, time that they can get together and talk about the students, to plan where the students are going to go, to problem solve, and to talk about future needs. That on-site team support they send their teams to statewide conferences, to national project search conferences, to statewide meetings, so that they can interface with other project search teams and see what they're doing and see how they're challenging their students and getting great employment outcomes. So some of the ways how can you support your on-site team? How are those HAS teams doing it? They cross-agency interview for new staff. So if you need a new teacher or a new job coach, it is perfectly fine for the supported employment agency to be involved in hiring or interviewing a teacher, and vice versa. Why shouldn't the educational partners be involved in interviewing for new job coaches? So that's one way that they can support each other and give input to new staff that's going to come on board. If you have training that you want your project search staff to go to, could those professional development days that a district gives be used in creative ways to support team training? So what we're talking about here is maybe if a school district has a whole district day, maybe the project search team doesn't go to that. Maybe they have their own staff development that'll help that HAS team get great results. You have to give autonomy to the day-to-day team because they're there every day, and sometimes leadership can't be there every day. You have to trust that they're going to do a good job and then support them when they ask for that help. And then certainly be there when they have challenges about students, about internships, about situations that might come up in the program. Lots of times our HAS teams are finding other creative ways to bring in community groups that are helping them. So managers and host site mentors are involved. Many times those host site mentors are giving each other ideas about how to support students, how to create job accommodations, how to work with young people with disabilities, and giving each other ideas. And that has proved very beneficial because they're supporting each other as another manager, another mentor from another internship department. Business advisory committees are groups that are coming together that represent businesses from across the communities to open their doors to the teachers, the job coaches, the students, to help them improve their interviewing skills, to help them look at what other opportunities there are in the community for employment. And then our family involvement programs are becoming more popular. That's a way for families to get together and support each other in this kind of new adventure of employment for their own young people. We have a program in Georgia that is just north of Atlanta that says we recruited the CEO and HR director of the hospital, the executive director of the Down Syndrome Congress, and CEOs of the Convention and Visitors Bureau and other business leaders to help us reach out to business. To us, that was a very unique way, using that Convention and Visitors Bureau, because who knows their businesses better than some of those organizations? So they create business leads for the teacher and the job coach. So a really unique way to reach out to your community. We keep talking about the Business Advisory Committee, and this is still a fairly new concept with some of the project search programs. So let's look at our HAS teams and what are those folks on the Business Advisory Committee doing. So the biggest red piece of the pie, so to speak, is they help the interns prepare for interviews. They do mock interviews with them, they set up job fairs, and they help those students get ready for interviews. The big blue piece is reviewing their resumes, helping them to have the best possible resume that they can, whether that's an electronic resume, whether it's a paper resume. The little purple slice is hosting an intern to come and tour their company and finding out more about another opportunity for them in the business community. And then the orange one is introducing the job developer, who's helping the young people find leads, showing them other businesses in town and in the community, because our job developers need to have a really rich knowledge of what's going on in their own community. How frequently does the BACs meet? The most often is quarterly. A couple of them are meeting monthly. Some are meeting every other month and once every rotation, which would be about 3 times a year. But quarterly seems to be about the most common times that the project search business advisory committees are meeting. And then what we found from our HAS teams is that they're looking around for other resources, other opportunities in their own communities that will help them meet the needs of the interns. So this is really a great way. We have a program in Northeast Georgia in Gainesville, and they have a small college in their own backyard that is strictly to train occupational therapists. And so they approached Brenau University to, can they help do assessments on their students? They help a lot with assessing the potential interns, so the new classes that would come in. So they have a strong team, and their members include not just their project search staff and their VR staff. They use their workforce investment board, their voc rehab provider, which is their supported employment, and they have a mentor group from their host business, their hospital, and parents. And it says the entire team is involved in the selection process for their new interns with the assistance of the Brenau Occupational Therapy Skills Assessment Group. The team collaborates for best solutions and practices for new interns. So I think that's a really interesting way to use a member of your community. Medtronic in Minneapolis uses the Young Professionals Group. So a group of young professionals who are about the same age as our interns to do both on-site and off-site activities and networking with the students. I had the opportunity to go to one of their activities when they were doing actually a wine and cheese event with both the interns and their families, teaching them how to exchange business cards and how to appropriately act at an adult exchange like that. We have a program at the Department of Education in Washington, D.C. And as some of you know, Arnie Duncan, the Secretary of the Department of Education, he's very involved in this program, and he comes to meet the students and talk with them periodically. So who's in your corner? Who is in your community that might help you, your students, your partners, your job developer, make new leads for you so that you also can get that 90, 100% employment for your interns with disabilities. So what other resources might you have? The Workforce Investment Board, as we know now, that they have more legal responsibilities to work with people with disabilities. There's a percentage of funds that are mandated for people with disabilities. They know the business community. They know who's hiring, who's leaving, who may be coming into your community. So don't be afraid to ask that Workforce Investment Board to be very active with your partnership. We have a program in Ohio at the Atrium Medical Center in Middletown, a little bit north of Cincinnati. And I love this quote because it's very true. It says, "We have become accustomed to keeping everyone in the loop with open, honest communication. Everything affects everyone." And in Project Search, this is very true. And I want to just give one example. So let's just say that one of your interns has to leave the program for whatever reason. Maybe they needed to leave, maybe they moved. So if all of a sudden your intern pool goes from 8 to 7, that's going to affect your staffing. It might affect how many job coaches you can have. It's going to affect the reimbursement from Voc Rehab. And so now, all of a sudden, you might have one less staff person at your host business, which could be detrimental not just to the interns, but to the managers, to the mentors. So everybody's affected by that. You need to have discussed ahead of time with your partners, how's that going to work? How's that going to look? How's that going to affect the on-site staff, the managers, the mentors, and then of course the other interns. Even the families will be affected. So when the Atrium Medical Center said everything affects everyone, that's true in every single case. If you have an intern that's doing fabulous work, everybody hears about it. If you have an intern that is having challenges, everybody hears about it. So think about that so that your communication with all your team members, and look at this whole list. Everybody from interns to advocacy groups are affected by this. So keep that in mind. That pebble in the pond, that image of one thing happens and it ripples out and affects everyone is very, very true in Project Search. And then let's talk about communication, because how do we keep each other informed? When you think about all the partners that are there, you can't call everybody up on a day-to-day basis and tell them what's going on. So you need strategies to communicate. So people use newsletters that can be effectively emailed to everyone. Distribution lists, if I need to get a quick email out to everybody, if I've got a list so nobody is left out. And then of course, regularly scheduled face-to-face meeting. Nothing beats having people sitting around a table talking to each other about challenges, celebrations, progress, and whatever it is that we need to work on. Special events are wonderful. There's all kinds of opportunities in Project Search to celebrate special events, whether it's a holiday, whether it's somebody getting a job, whether it's the internship is ending, the internship's beginning, family members are coming in. So special events are a great way to bring people together. Some of our HAS teams do an email every single week to all the programs in that state just to say, hey, what's going on here with our program? We want you to know. We want you to celebrate with us. We want you to be aware of the great things that are happening. What communication tools are being used by steering committees of Project Search? The big orange piece is those face-to-face meetings again. The purple one is email. That's probably still the way we communicate the most. Conference calls, the blue piece, newsletters, and some people are using blogs. So these are just ways to communicate. Other ideas. There is a document in the Project Search resource guide that probably people see ongoing, that roles and responsibilities document. It's about 6 pages long. However, think about that document was created at the minimum 10 years ago. You need to think about the roles change, people move, new people move in. And so it's important that you take that document, review it annually, review it when a new person comes in so they know what's expected of them. So that's a good document to look at as often as you need to, and make it your own. There's nothing sacred about it, but you need to agree as a team what people are doing and what they're not doing, and how are they working together. And it's okay to have the same task on multiple people's roles and responsibilities. So for instance, job coaching is on the instructor role. Job coaching is on the job coaching role. So multiple people are doing job coaching, multiple people are doing teaching. So at your steering committees, talk about roles and responsibilities. Have some questions to help manage who's doing what. And if we have some people that, in addition, we need more folks to do a job coaching or we need more people to do job development, talk about that and how is that going to happen? How do we get the funding for that? How do we get the time for that? So make sure that we bring up things that are affecting the young people and their goal of employment. How do we measure success? That's an important question to ask because every partner in Project Search measures success differently. Schools might measure success by graduation. The supported employment partner might measure success by the jobs that they get. VR measures success by their closures. So how do we make sure that everyone gets success, but that all the interns still get jobs? So that's important to know. If I know that a partner needs a certain thing to happen for them to feel successful, then the whole team needs to work together to make sure that that thing happens. Whether it's a marketing piece, whether it's a job, whether it's a job at a certain place. What is it that's going to help my partners feel good about Project Search? And how can I, as a good partner, help them feel successful? Funding. Funding is critical. Funding is not endless. Funding is finite. So everybody needs to understand where the money's coming from. How does the job coaches get paid? How does the teacher get paid? How does funding work so that I understand funding for each of my partners and can talk intelligently about it in the community if I need to other funders, to families, to businesses? And then review and confirm the leadership structure of the team. Some teams change leadership. Some teams say, well, this year the Supported Employment Agency is going to run the steering committees, and next year the educational partner is going to run that. That's fine, but as long as you know that and understand that and can support that. So you always need to be in support of what your team has decided and how that's going to work. I keep talking about teams. There's some research out there that shows that teams go through stages, and it would be interesting to read a little bit about how teams work. We know that teams form together, and there's that awkward stage of getting to know each other, and that what we just talked about, figuring out who's who, what's your leadership structure, what's your funding structure, but that's an important stage to go through. And then there might be some storming, there might be some clash, there might be a little bit of jockeying for positions, and you're going to have to work through that and be respectful of each other during that time. And then hopefully there's the norming where we're coming together, we're working together in a good way. But then finally we have to perform, which for Project Search that means starting your program, students gaining skills, and students getting jobs. We hope that teams don't adjourn, but teams do go through changes. So as your team moves from one area to another, as people move off teams, come on teams, be respectful of their knowledge that they might not know enough about Project Search, and you as an older member might need to help them do that. So just learn a little bit about how teams work. So I'm going to end with two quotes from Paul Wayman. As most of you know, Paul works at Virginia Commonwealth University. He's done a lot of work to implement Project Search, not just throughout Virginia, but throughout the country. So I want to read what he talks about and keep this in mind as you think about your Project Search team. He says, it is time-consuming and requires a lot of careful thought to follow the guidelines in the Project Search model, as well as organize the many personalities that are necessary to launch a new Project Search site. That being said, here's how he ends. Project Search builds on the knowledge of the host business and combines that with what we best know about community-based instruction, mentoring, on-site behavioral assessments, assistive technology, and supported employment. So Paul's saying that you all bring gifts to the table. Our educators, our supported employment folks, our job coaches, our VR staff, everyone brings gifts to the table. Let's recognize those gifts. Let's celebrate those gifts. Let's use those gifts as we work with our young people so that they can gain the skills they need to get competitive employment in the community, which is the goal of Project Search. Thanks, Paul, and thanks to you for listening. Thanks for being part of this webcast today.